Calling this meeting to order. Start with the pledge to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I have not heard from Henry. So I hope everything's all right. We'll continue with privilege of the floor. If any of you did not receive the community newsletter at home, if you put your name on here, we'll try to get an address label for you. People have signed up for privilege of the floor. Marguerite Wells. Please stand if you're able and address the full board.
Marguerite Wells, 863 Hates Road. Good evening, everybody. I didn't manage to stay for the whole meeting last week, but I appreciate that it went long, and that one of the gists of conversation was an interest in moving this process along, because it's taken a long time, and I agree with that. I wanted to mention that since we got the board's directive that you wanted all the plans complete at the end of October, it was only in the middle of January that I had all of the town's consultants' feedback. So I brought the resulting plans to you as soon as I could, which was February meeting. But I also would like to work with you to try to get this stuff moved forward in as timely a fashion as we can. So I appreciate working with you.
Thank you. Jolie Carlisle.
Hello all, I'm Jolie Carlisle. I live at 463 Black Oak Road. First, I'd like to thank the board for the due diligence that they have performed to this point on this wind farm project. Many hours have been spent discussing the various issues that this project has brought to the table. Some issues have been relatively easy to resolve. There are, however, many that remain unresolved. This project has been in the works for the better part of 10 years. I will admit I have been uninvolved for most of it due to not living in the area. I moved back almost a year and a half ago and started coming to the meetings again. I must say I'm pretty disappointed that not much progress was made in the 5 years that I was absent. The board has made and continues to make numerous requests of Black Oak for documents and information that are required by the application itself and other agencies involved. This information is not optional. Black Oak has either failed or refused to provide this information. The board, in return, has not taken a serious stand on any of these outstanding issues. I have heard numerous times that we should do this or we should do that, but nothing concrete has happened. When a request is made to Black Oak to provide information and they don't respond in full or at all, no sanctions or penalties have been placed against them. Who is in charge here? Each and every one of you sitting on this board have a responsibility to do what's in the best interest of the town residents, not the Black Oak wind farm investors. Any other application would have been denied long ago, so why is this one still pending? Speaking for myself, I'm getting pretty tired of the unknown, the rhetoric, and the blatant disregard of the rules and regulations put in place for this project. I believe this is what Black Oak is counting on. Wear the little people down to get what they want, and to heck with the long-term consequences. We are at a point that definite decisions need to be made. The board needs to show the town people not what it should do, but what it can and will do. This board, I challenge you to put a resolution on the table tonight to set some definite dates by which Black Oak must comply with all outstanding issues, and if they aren't met, deny the application. Put this thing to rest one way or the other so this town and the board and residents can start working on other matters that need attention. Thank you.
Thank you. Martha Fisher.
I'm Martha Fisher. I live at 772 Bostwick Road. And I'd like to mention a project hosted by the Cooperative Extension, Cornell's Cooperative Extension. relating to home energy conservation and the idea of tightening up your home's envelope, the structure itself, and taking measures that will reduce the amount of energy that your home uses. It's called the Energy Navigator project, and they're recruiting people to come attend a class. It's a series of 10 classes that begins in March, and it's Thursday evenings. And I was talking with a person who took the class the last time that they presented it, and it's a tremendous lot of information. It's a lot of really good hands-on experience and information that helps neighbors. The goal of it is for those of us who become an energy navigator to contact a couple of our friends and help them go through the steps to reduce their home's energy consumption. In the end, you know, it's the grand idea of using less energy, but basically it saves a lot of money. And that's a good thing for all of us. The qualification is to take the course as a basic interest in energy-related knowledge and skills, which I bet many of us have, enthusiasm for helping others with energy-related questions and actions, reside in Tompkins County, and so on. I've heard that it's a very good course. It's a Thursday evening starting in March. I'm not sure of the exact date. Now, the deadline for applying for the course is today, but I know that as of last week, they had 17 people signing up for the class, and the Kareem Beers, who is the head of the project, told me that most of those people are City of Ithaca or Town of Ithaca residents, and they really want to get people from out in the outlying towns. Enfield would be great. So if any of you know anybody who would be interested in this project, let me know. I have a flyer that I'm going to pass on to Nancy here, but I have more information about it. Thanks a lot, everybody.
Thank you, Martha.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
Is that the same as the Titan button-up thing that they sent in the kids' backpacks?
It's another way around it. You know, it's kind of like tightening up your home, but this gives somebody the know-how and the hands-on experience so that that person can come and actually help you.
Okay.
Because a lot of that stuff comes in writings, and I go, yeah, right, you know, so it'd be good to get hands-on.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah,
How much does this cost?
it's free.
It's free?
Yeah.
I didn't
Yeah, yeah,
Didn't say that.
yeah, sorry.
Going on a couple months.
This does tag on to Button Up Enfield. The staff person left that was handling that, and the transition was a little rocky
Yeah,
with new staff.
but the idea is still there and.
Right, right,
you know.
right. Marcus Gingrich.
Marcus Gingrich, 101 Rumsey Hill Road. I was a little disappointed that Henry's not here because I wanted to thank him for his work on the board. But another thing that I wanted to mention, I did get a chance, thanks for putting those plans on the website and making them readily accessible to the public. I worked through a lot of them, not all of them quite yet, but I won't bore you with a lot of comments right here, but I will send you an email with some comments in the future. I was disappointed to see that I would say that some of them appear to have gone backward rather than forward. But in fact, I think there's still one that appears to me, of course, I'm not a lawyer, but appears to me not even be in compliance with the Enfield wind law. But I will be sending those comments along to you. So I just encourage you to keep really looking at those. Make sure that they're what works for our town, that protects the town, that protects the residents of the town. Is really looking out for the best interest of the town as a whole, not just as investors or a company or something like that. So, thanks for all your work, and just keep it up.
Thank you.
Teresa Guller?
Guler, 738 Black Oak Road. The first thing I wanted to mention to the board, I don't know if this was ever addressed. Well, I think it was addressed 5 or 6 months ago when Melinda and Rob Tesori, which aren't here tonight, had mentioned to the board. We keep getting like cell towers and, internet towers and Clarity Connect towers and solar panel projects in Enfield. My question is all this stuff keeps coming into Enfield, but why is Enfield not benefiting from any of it? Like, we're such a poor community and we can't afford anything. Why can't we charge any type of percentage on any of this to try to help benefit the community if they want to put another tower up or whatever, even if it's a small percentage, if it's going to help the town out, there's extra revenue right there. The other thing with the whole highway department with the building, I know that they were talking at the last meeting about the sand thing. I didn't know if anybody talked to Buddy about doing like a clear span building, it's called, compared to a regular building. I guess they're a lot cheaper in price and might be something that he might want to look into or we could talk to him about. And I reached out, the last thing I wanted to say was, I really think that the government funding thing with the grants is a really good route to do if we don't have the extra money for stuff like this. I did reach out and called a couple of people on my own time to try to see if we could get anywhere with that. Because I think that if we try to come together and try to help raise money and try to get this stuff fixed, it's better than increasing taxes because there's already people struggling to pay their mortgages in this town. So I think if there's any other solution, we should try to go that route before we just end up giving up and just raising taxes on people. That's it, thank you.
I'd like to respond. To your first point, cell towers, they're on private property, they're assessed.
Right, but you guys are the town board though, you can add that in your clause, because other towns have done the same thing.
These things that have been a permit put into the town of Enfield, the assessment department in downtown Ithaca will reassess the property that they're on and make a current assessment as they deem appropriate. And this is how taxes are raised in the town of Enfield on property owners' assessment.
So what about any existing or possible solar projects that come into Enfield? Isn't there a way that you guys, I mean, they're gonna come in regardless, isn't there a way you guys can somehow benefit from this? I mean, we're always looking for ways to try to come up with money, even at 1 or 2% on all these projects can end up be extra.
I'll say it one more time. All the things that get a permit in the town of Enfield are assessed by the Tompkins County Assessment Department. And they do all the assessments in the town of Enfield. They will determine whether there's an increase in the assessment on land that these projects are on. And that assessment is the basis for which we raise taxes in the town of Enfield.
Can I make a comment about the solar? I actually just
I
got...
may disagree with you, but
Well,
you
you
can
might,
make
but
a
I'm just going to
comment.
relay what Jay Franklin told me today. So in the town of Enfield, because we have opted out of
the exemption. A lot of towns, the standard is that they were opting into exempting solar development and wind and farm waste energy. for
Alternative
15 years.
energy
Yeah, for 15 years.
sources.
So once that came to the town of Enfield opted out of that exemption. So a property like where Delaware's solar farm is proposed to be, it would be assessed by Tompkins County Assessment, and they're not really sure how they're doing that yet. Jay Franklin, the assessor, has said that it would be a combination, if there's a home or residence on the property as well as this installation, that it would be a combination of a commercial and residential. Then they would also have to throw in there whether or not they had compatible agriculture use at the same time. If they did, they could keep their ag assessment. If they didn't, they would lose their ag assessment. So all of those things go into whether or not we would get a larger percent or a larger dollar figure for that property. The other thing is that because we opted out, we can't ask for a pilot, but they can seek a pilot through the IDA. And a pilot agreement, it can't be higher than the assessed amount of money that they would end up paying for taxes for the property. So we could enter into a pilot agreement with them, but he said today that they will seek a pilot agreement
They.
in lieu. Yes,
They
would.
will.
We cannot ask for that. So
No, we, they.
That's right.
Yes.
So while we would enter into that agreement that the IDA presents to us, then that would be the dollar figure that we would agree on. So it really is out of our hands at this point. And it wouldn't be wise for them to not seek a pilot agreement, because it would likely be more money for them if they just went with the regular assessed value. So.
As I said, the Tompkins County Assessment Department will determine the value
Got it.
on all projects except wind that come into the town of Enfield.
And with solar, it might seem though, like if we're getting an 8,000 panel solar farm, that this might be a windfall, or, sorry, no pun intended, but it might be, a big amount of money coming to the town. But because of this, it's not necessarily, so because of the way that
I
this.
wasn't really concerned about personal, people having them in their house. I was just talking in general with larger projects
Right.
coming in.
Right. So believe me, it is confusing to everyone. The IDA, the assessor's office, it is all really very new territory, and there's so many questions. I mean, he said today, when I asked him 10 questions, I get all of these questions from everybody. So, everybody is still feeling it out. So.
Did you have a question?
Who?
You?
No,
Oh, I thought you did.
I was just talking to myself.
Okay, all right.
Thank
We're
you
checking
for
on you.
You got it?
Professionally and nicely.
Exactly.
Jude Lemke.
Jude Lemke, 215 Connecticut Hill Road. So for tonight, I just wanted a couple comments. I would like, if you're talking to Guy Crow, to bring up the sound law. The sound standard in our law is truly inadequate, and I think before any permit gets issued, we should be amending that law to make sure that the sound limit within the law, as applied to Black Oak, should more correspond with the DEC guidelines that Black Oak claims to be complying with as part of the project. And in particular, they should also look at both the day and the night guidelines, which Black Oak ignored by averaging the numbers instead of looking at night and day separately. But as the DEC says, more than 20%, a 20 dBA increase in sound is intolerable. And if you look at Black Oak's numbers as well as our noise experts' numbers, the nighttime noise levels will increase by close to that 20 dBA. I would also request that you send on to Guy Crow all of the documents we have requested to be put on the record with respect to Black Oak. That would include, among other things, the letter I gave you on why I think that they haven't shown you they can build a project, the various documents that they still need to provide to be in compliance with the town law, as well as a fairly extensive list of comments we've made on the plans. With respect to the comments, once again, undated, no version control, so it's a little hard to follow which plans are up and which versions are there. I mean, it would really help if they gave us mark to show changes versions, which we can't do because they're giving us PDFs, but all they have to do is compare the last version to the new version in Word and hit the track changes, mark to show changes. It comes up in a second, so it's not very hard to do. I haven't had a whole lot of time to review those, but like Marcus, I see that they're going backwards, not forwards. In particular, I see the property value guarantee has been dropped. And then finally, supposedly these new plans are in compliance with Labella comments. If you've shared those comments with Black Oak, then the town should be sharing them on the website with the residents as well, because they're no longer subject to any kind of exemption from FOIL or disclosure, so I don't know why the board wouldn't put those Labella comments out on the website along with everything else. Thank you.
Does anybody else wish to speak under privilege of the floor? You have to sign. Okay, we'll move on with the agenda. Since we're collected, I prepared another audit. Do you want to read the blurb?
The town board authorizes the supervisor to pay general fund vouchers 62 to 67, dated 2/15/17, in the amount of $6,432.22. Highway fund vouchers 40, 2/15/17, in the amount of $163.68.
Second? Second. Discussion? Call the vote.
Councilperson Bryant?
Aye.
Councilperson Carpenter?
Aye.
Councilperson McGee?
Aye.
Supervisor Ryder?
Aye. We're going to move on to business that wasn't covered in last week's meeting because of time. The first item here is a corrective action plan from a survey that was done by an insurance person last summer. And I think I provided the board with this copy before, but we have a new board member and it was a while ago, so I prepared a new copy of that. I have moved along on trying to hire someone to do the boiler room deal. I would like some guidance on how you want to answer the second one, electrical.
What is the boiler room deal?
You have a piece of paper before you. It says compliance at the top of it.
I do. Did that come today?
Yes? Well, I think you've gotten it before, but a new copy came to refresh your memory.
No, I don't.
And it consists of 3 pages.
I don't
A cover letter.
see it in anything that
Oh.
I had in front of me
I
today.
didn't get it either.
I don't have it.
Do you have it, Virginia?
Ah. You'll have to share.
third page.
Global harmonization, I love it. Okay, I'm ready.
I'm ready.
The boiler room, I've talked with
Oh,
a
here it is.
general carpenter about these things, and since I do not feel it be over $3,000 within the procurement policies to go ahead with these. Number 2, I'd like the board's input on how to answer this.
I think we should take steps to fix the problem. It could well be that a joint concerted effort between the Bella and board members and anyone else that has an interest in it would be great to have a conversation about it and think about how to go about it. I think it has to be done in the context of cost as a factor in the work to be done. So we look at it as making an overall plan on how we're going to deal with the issue and with the problem in the highway department building, and make a plan and begin to institute it.
Do you think we've started it at all?
I do.
Do I think we started what?
It at all?
The plan?
Yes.
Well, we did last week. With Dan had some thoughts, and you had some thoughts, and I definitely had some thoughts.
And I've actually communicated with Municipal Services and with Lavella this week, so I'll be typing up all that
Great.
information and sending it to you guys.
That's really good.
Is it specifically about this water drip?
The
Well,
water
Condi-
drip.
It's
condensation.
condensation.
Yeah.
Is what the issue is. It's too much water and the fact that it condenses on the walls.
I mean, can we say that we are taking steps to explore the options to mitigate this problem with,
Well, yeah, we're already exploring options. I think that's a process already.
Right.
It's just a matter of how to figure out how to pay for what we can afford to do and start at the beginning and work our way through to what's
but
the
with
end.
regard to answering this, we just have to tell them what we're doing right now.
I would think so.
So-
Yeah, I think so.
So we're
We don't have to have
exploring
them.
options.
Yeah.
Do you think for the minutes you could give us a little bit of what you're talking about? Because we don't have any idea of what you're mitigating or anything.
All of the moisture issues with the highway department
Okay,
that
well-
create the
You want
problem
a
with
copy
the.
of this?
That would be helpful,
I
but
think
the
it would.
public might like to sort of have an idea too. What's,
So it's just the discussion about the
highway
visible
facility.
condensation in the highway department.
Yeah, we just did one boiler room and now we're in the electrical.
okay, maybe if you could just give a little overview.
I'll
before
read
you
it, I'll
talk
read it,
about
I'll read it. During the risk review at the DPW, Department of Public Works garage, there was a discussion about a condensation issue which has an effect on the electrical plugs throughout the garage. Water drips down the walls into the plugs and has caused some discoloration in the plug area. It appears that a better ventilation system is needed to stop the condensation issue. Recommendation made to have a qualified electrician or engineer look at the problem and provide a remedy to avoid a potential fire or electrocution risk. So we actually have had an engineer look at the problem. We
And
have
an
received a report,
Yep.
Had an electrician look at it too.
and we've had an electrician look at it. And there was GFI plugs put in.
They did replace a
In some
number of the.
places, yeah.
So if I go back and search through 100 vendor things, I'll
I
find
think it was
that bill.
last,
It
actually
was the
last meeting.
voucher.
Yeah, so
was
I
the
only
bill
have
for
to
it.
go through
It was
75.
from Schisler.
Okay. Copy of Schisler bill. So this is not completed.
Not completed, but we're addressing it.
Life safety. Upon entering the town hall for the risk review, it was quickly noticeable how easy access is to the staff. Because of the possibility of unwanted or angry people looking to do harm these days, was recommended that some type of barrier be considered in the entrance area for the protection of town employees.
Would you be comfortable with bulletproof glass?
No.
Would they
Or a
stick maybe
cage.
a full counter with a flip top or something?
That's what he
Yeah.
suggested, but at this meeting at a prior meeting, I remember hearing Mike didn't like that idea, Alice didn't like that idea. Am I making this up?
Didn't like which idea?
The full counter?
Full counter across the room.
No, I actually
It's,
got my cabinet maker to agree to go look at it and give us a price on doing that. I want him to come talk to Alice and them to work it out.
So
would-
I am remembering wrong.
Oh, no, you're remembering right. We did talk about it.
We did talk about it.
And we talked about a possible solution and what would be the best way to do it in keeping with what Alice's needs are in the space itself as well. The problem is that he's been busy on the 2 jobs that he was doing back then, months ago. He's still doing those 2 jobs, and he hasn't had time to go and do it yet, so maybe I need to find somebody else to do it. What's that?
Who did you speak to?
The guy that makes cabinets and countertops for me.
Is it something Norm could do?
well.
Yes, the
I-
question is when.
Norm could, but Norm is kind
The
of
question is when.
even harder to get places sometimes because he's a busy guy too. A lot of people that do good jobs on those kind of things are busy because they do good jobs, so.
Yeah.
But,
Well, Sue and I don't feel that just putting a further counter across would really protect us from anything.
well, and that's why I think they should come and talk to you and see what you think would be the best plan.
Because anyone can jump over the counter and,
Well, the risk assessment guy doesn't agree with that. Because
What
what
would
he
you-
said at the time was that the height makes it virtually impossible to go any further, except that countertop is only X 8 feet long and there's plenty of space to go around.
Have you had thoughts of, and Sue had thoughts of other solutions to that?
no, I mean, I think the only way we would be safe is, like you say, a bulletproof window. I mean-
Yeah.
Well, obviously,
And I am not really,
the insurance industry is definitely on an overkill jag
Yeah.
these days, and that's what they do. So,
because the one counter is only this tall, and anybody, I could jump over something
Yes.
this tall.
Right, but it would be a full counter.
You'd have to
And
take
it would
off
be
what's
up to
there and
you.
make it, which is
Henry's
very.
arriving
yeah.
late. Good.
So we have to decide whether,
Got all sorts of excuses now, don't you?
Sorry about that. You're just looking to get fired.
We're here. No, we're here.
well, I guess so that brings up the larger question. What kind of compliance do we have to have for the insurance people? What level of?
I have not done this before, so I have no basis of experience.
Right, so. it
I
seems-
do feel that I have an obligation to reply to this letter. It's 6 months late.
Right, I agree.
Do have an obligation to reply to this letter.
Well, I would say to that particular issue, then, we should say that we are exploring options between the town clerk and cabinet makers or countertop fixer people that will be satisfactory to all involved.
So are you gonna pursue this, or you want me to have my guy pursue it?
If you have a guy, great. I have no problem with you having a guy, but
Thanks.
my guy is hard to get going, that's all, hard to get here. He's busy.
Some type of barrier is pretty vague, isn't it?
Well, Alice would actually like to have some say in the process, so
That makes sense.
she doesn't get locked in.
Yeah.
You have like a barbed wire line that goes.
That might, yeah, with electricity, yeah. Yeah.
I have a hard time imagining being able to put something in there that would keep somebody determined from
From getting in there.
coming to the other side.
Right.
Put a little pod in there and you can climb in the pod and work from that.
We could build a new town hall and build it.
There's the answer. That's the answer, yes.
Somebody wants to put in there.
You do have a button underneath. We'll put that in the minutes and make it public.
And what does her button do?
Details.
It's an alarm, it's wired to alarm tech. So we push the button and then the sheriff will come
Eventually, maybe.
eventually when, yeah,
Yeah, after everybody's dead.
yeah.
How about a dog?
Yeah, dog is, yeah.
And somebody will get bit inadvertently. Through the town.
Okay, general safety. The courtroom has numerous chairs, many of which could be put away into a safe location. The chairs are not locked together, thus it is possible to use a chair as a weapon in the current conditions. This is board business. I'm sorry it's boring, but it's board business. A recommendation was made to secure chairs together to avoid injury to anyone in the courtroom under heated or serious circumstances. I got him to agree that if we put 3 chairs together with a zip lock, a zip hook,
tie.
zip tie, that would satisfy his conditions. I actually bought the zip ties, but I've never had them applied because I forgot.
We'll cross
But
that one off the list.
that pleased him. Well, and then maybe by the time I send the letter, I could say completed.
I'm actually surprised that's the only thing that they suggested, because I had a conversation with a judge this week, and she has a real issue with the fact that people come in behind her. And I was thinking that.
This is news to me. In fact, I've heard her say just the opposite.
No, she sent me an email and said it, that
Oh,
it's.
good. Forward it on.
I will.
Because
I asked her for
I have
information for the comprehensive.
asked her
plan.
more than once.
So she has an issue with the fact that it doesn't feel secure if someone comes in behind her office. And I was thinking that maybe for court evenings, if that's not the entrance that people use, that they direct traffic to come in the side door instead, because that door can remain locked and people can still get out
Yeah.
and fire. But
Right.
it would seem like that would be a simple enough
Yeah.
solution to that.
Yeah, first time I've ever heard her, and I've asked her.
It's just a sign, really.
Yeah,
It's a sign?
just putting a
If you-
sign up.
If you put a sign up on the
Use the
corner over
side
there that
entrance.
said,
Yeah.
this way to court.
Right,
Yeah.
right. And then, okay. All right, I'll add that. The window in the courtroom next to the wheelchair ramp has clear access into the courtroom and should have some type of window covering to avoid an outsider from creating potentially dangerous conditions for the people inside the courtroom. Recommendation made to secure the window better. For $3, I bought a shade today, or no, yesterday, to cover it 3/4 of the way up.
Sounds doable.
This says the fire department, but I believe it means the highway department, because I didn't go to the fire department with him, so I believe that's a typo. This is the highway department, I believe. The highway department has a storage area in an upper mezzanine level, recommended made to have a load limit sign for the mezzanine level. Did a sign ever get put up? There was talk a year ago about a sign. No, no signs.
It has been mentioned though, because just when I was there last week, Brandon said that they were told not to put such heavy stuff up there. So they are aware of it and they're abiding by it. So maybe we just need to figure out a weight limit. Did they suggest a weight limit?
Well,
No, I think we're supposed to figure that
Well,
out.
it would be built to a certain code, so 20 pounds per square foot, 30, 40. You could look at what it was and what the code book says it should have been, probably 20 or 30 most likely pounds per square foot, and then you just measure the space and calculate the total load.
Do we have in-house capacity to figure that out? Alan, Dan?
Yeah, I mean.
Should be in the plans.
Plans, we know where the plans are.
Yeah, no, that's all right, yeah, we just.
We
can
know
figure
what
load, yes.
the load limit should be.
Who's gonna do it though? And
I'm
when are we
saying,
gonna-
do we have internal capacity to figure this out?
Right.
We do.
We
So
do
just
have
the sign
internal
says that.
capacity
We have
to
smart
figure it
people
out.
and plans.
No, we have, that's, I said,
We can look at the plans and decide what the,
what the limit, what it was built to. Then who's gonna do it? That's an
Right,
excellent
that's my
question.
question. So,
That's an excellent question.
would you like to do it?
I'm trying to stay away from the highway department as much as I can.
All you have to do is figure out a number.
Yeah. I can
No,
help figure out the
no, I
number.
believe you have to then get a sign.
I could
And
even
then you
make-
have to hammer
I'll
it
make a
in.
sign if somebody else can put it up.
At least 3 steps, after you get the technical info.
Right.
I'm fine making a sign for it, yeah.
All right, well, I don't wanna get the technical info.
I will look it up and see what it was designed for and what the load should be.
Okay.
Thank you, Alan. If you let Mike know, he'll make a sign.
I'll make the sign.
Thank
And
you.
I'll
They
give it
would've
to you
built it
to put
And I'll
up.
put it
Better
up.
to
Yeah,
store
for
stuff up
brand.
Look
there
at what
now,
a team we are.
Yeah.
right? You think they would've built it better to store stuff up above though, right? More of a lower.
That's
down.
not the question before us.
Yeah,
That's
it-
not the question before us.
It's what the architect decided. that
Right, I know
he was
that
gonna
much.
do. Yeah,
That's what it was made for.
yeah.
There's a new park and ride that was created across the street from the town hall. It is a great idea. However, there currently is no lighting for this lot. To avoid slips and falls and possible criminal activity, it is recommended that some type of adequate lighting be added to the park and ride. We did discuss this last week in our rambling meeting. NICEAG has contacted me, and they are willing to put up an array, but at the last meeting, I was told to pursue solar, which is taking a lot of phone calls.
Did they
But
give you a price, Isaac?
NICEAG will put it in for free, we have to pay for the electricity.
And it
When you
was,
say they'll put up an array, what does that mean?
Well, in the daylight, you go down there and look, and there's what I call an array. They go into Mercury and da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. I call it an array. There's one already on there.
I mean, a light fixture is like an array. That's fine, I'm just trying to understand what you meant.
Well, it's right there.
Yeah.
No, I don't know what I mean.
So
That's why I said array, small a.
NICEAG will put a light up
For free.
for us.
Well, you know, I don't know. We didn't, by the time he called me, it was this week, and I was already off on solar. And so I'll have to start over again with him if solar doesn't work.
So
I don't.
So we'll need to find out if there's obviously there'll be a meter, and then there'll be a meter reading fee, and the whole.
Yes,
the bill.
yes, we'll have to pay for it.
you pay by fixture, there's no meter on the lighting.
Ah, okay.
Unless
Oh,
you
yes,
own,
there
unless
is.
you own the lighting and you have another
Yeah.
entrance service there.
Yeah.
That's the other way to go, the town could put up their own lights and just
Right.
have another.
Right.
But if
meter.
not, then what did they do?
They just take the rating of the lights, they figure the average use,
Right.
and then that's what they come up with, the $6 or $8 a month that you
Right,
pay
Okay.
for it.
we'll have to pay for it.
And they put it on an eye, so it
It's
goes
just,
on.
yeah, it's a dawn to dusk.
Dawn to
lighting.
dusk,
Yeah,
dawn to dusk array.
right,
And so all the intersection lights work in the county.
gotcha.
So we have started on that. The portable welding cart is recommended to have a steel plate between the two tanks and should extend at least 6 inches higher than the tallest tank on the cart. Do any of you have a copy that's got red marks on it or annotated?
Yep, well,
Yeah,
what are you looking for?
yeah. What's that say?
The portable welding cart is recommended to have a steel plate between the two tanks and should extend at least 6 inches higher than the tallest tank on the cart.
Right.
Says
Is there
new
any?
cart and completed.
It says completed.
Yep.
Well, excellent.
And the next one does too.
It's
Is,
not completed.
Oh, it says not completed.
it says not completed.
Yeah.
Well, that was a while ago.
Oh, no,
so-
it says pending.
Oh, yes, pending, yeah, right.
Well, that was a while ago, so I'm gonna check and see if it's gotten completed. That, for the public, is safety data sheet binder needs to be finished as of June 1, 2016. The deadline has passed. Recommendation made to create the binder as soon as possible as MSDSs are no longer being used/issued. So you have to have a safety data sheet binder. Think you got one of those down there in the past 5 months?
There's a big shiny yellow thing in the cage, that's probably what it is.
Probably what it is. Well, when I go to look at my puddles tomorrow morning, you're warned, I'll look and see what that big shiny thing actually is.
We'll probably be out plowing.
Well, you know,
Make sure you
I
get one
actually
full.
don't think you lock that building when you plow. Maybe I'll be surprised. And maybe I won't ever be able to tell what that shiny thing is there. But if I can't tell, I'm not sure how the employees are gonna tell.
No, there's something right to the right.
There is something.
Right when you walk in. It's
No,
yellow.
it's in the bay.
Past time, or time clock, and then you go through that door, it's right on the right.
Right, it's in the bay.
It's in the first bay, yes.
Yes. Policies and procedure. Training has been done with the exception of global harmonization. I don't have much to say about this. PowerPoints for global harmonization and HAZWOPER
Looks that way.
have been sent by an email to town clerk for sharing. Recommendation made to finish the required RTK/global harmonization training and maintain annual training for the mandatory topics of workplace violence, sexual harassment, bloodborne pathogen, and RTK/global harmonization. So, I'd like to ask the town clerk to forward that email so that I can add it to the training that we already have done on a regular basis. Any other suggestions on how to remediate this? Can you get that to me in 10 days, Alice?
Sure, I may have sent it already, but I'll dig it out and send it again.
Okay. We have to do this mandatory training every year, which comes up in April, May, June, so we'll just add global harmonization to this. I don't know what HAZWOPER is, but I guess we'll be learning.
The HAZWOPER's the placarded trucks.
The what?
It's placards on trucks that have dangerous materials in it. You have to be trained and identified. If fuel trucks or trucks with explosive materials, it's basically the hazardous.
Hazmat.
Yeah, hazmat
Whatever you're
stuff.
hauling, you can.
Right. So the highway department needs to be aware of if there's something tips over on the road and starts spilling, you gotta be able to be aware what it is and what the proper procedures for dealing with it are.
But all employees have to have it
All the
in
truck
that,
drivers, all the commercial truck drivers
all
have
the
to have that,
commercial truck drivers have to.
I believe.
Have to have what?
The HAZWOPer.
No, they don't
Hazmat.
have to have hazmat to wear.
Well, if you're not, depending on what you're hauling, but, yeah.
If you're hauling hazardous material, then you need hazmat
Yep.
endorsement on your license.
Talking about training for cleanup.
So you can identify that
Yeah.
if it falls out of your truck
Right.
or if you get an accident.
But there's also a requirement that people that are on the road in a public service be aware of what the placarding on the trucks are so that somebody else's trucks. with hazardous
Oncoming
materials, you
trucks
know
around them.
What's happening.
Okay,
You see that in some of the training manuals.
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, the fire department's they're usually first responders, but highway departments are often considered first responders too.
Okay. And can I trade these 2 pages for your 2 pages, Beth? Okay. And now we have to do a corrective action plan in regards to the recent audit we had. So, Bill, I want you to take notes, because I'll guarantee you, you'll have to do a
You've done it before.
corrective action plan. Okay, the town was notified back in the summer that we were going to have an audit from the Office of the State Comptroller. And so they came down and had an entrance meeting, as they call it. And then, and I don't know when this was. At least by September, a little before September, I think. And, oh, it was August 15th, they came down and told us they were going to look at our purchasing policies. It would take about 1.5 months, and it was confidential. So they got keys to the kingdom and commented on how thorough we were on putting all the minutes on the web and how easy it was to get the basic information they needed. And then, I don't know, they were here 6 days, here and there, 8 days, here and there, on site. And then they went back to Binghamton, and came back in November with a draft examination. And we had an executive session, closed session on that draft report back in November, I think. And then they gave the final they released the final report sometime the 1st of December, the last of November. And so I was in the process. You're able to write a response to the draft audit. I wrote a response on December 23rd. Pretty sure that I shared that with the board. Anybody going to claim they recollect getting it, seeing it?
Yes.
Thank you. And then they suddenly released it to the public one day in January. Last of January. I thought they were gonna give me notice when they were gonna publish it, but they didn't. So now we have to tell them a corrective action plan. So it boils down to the way I see it. We need to decide. One of the things that they disagreed with was we don't put our lawyer out to bid. So a board member has been interested in that, and so we are planning to put the lawyer out to bid. In the middle of this audit, or we, was my suggestion, we did change fuel companies, and the fuel company verbally guaranteed they would match state bid price. Now, I have actually never checked them. We have seen a significant reduction in our fuel, the cost per gallon, and you can't get better than state bid. They did tell me that if we check the state bid 4 times a year, and they're at the state bid, that would satisfy the state bid requirement. And then you would attach that to the voucher. Mike has talked about a best value resolution, and I do have an sample best value resolution, which might cover the sand deal with the highway department. I didn't bring the best value thing with me. It turns out you don't have to, some reply makes me think you didn't have to. I found out that the woman from Excelis will help us put out an RFP on health insurance, so I can get that done for free. How you would put out an RFP for liability and all the other insurances, I have no idea. I'm hoping that at the Association of Town meetings, they would help me do that. I asked the auditors for some sample resolutions. They absolutely, oh no, we don't do that. You have to figure out your own resolutions. I have always been under the impression that the reason we get our insurance through NYMAR is because they get the best deals for towns. And I told the auditors that, and it was like they had never heard of this. So, as I say, at the Association of Towns meetings, I will ask a couple of towns how they put this out to bid. Everybody belongs to NYMAR. I don't know what well, no, I can find some. I'll bet you the town of Reading doesn't go through NYMAR. Oh, I probably wouldn't have to go very far away to find somebody who doesn't go through NYMAR and how they put it out to bid. So I guess what I'm looking to the board, you have thoughts on what we want to do as our corrective action plan that we have to send to the state auditor.
It sounds to me like what you're suggesting, getting information from other towns as to what they do that's acceptable to the state auditors is a good beginning. There's no sense in recreating the wheel. And then putting the formal procedure or policy together in written form, saying how we do it.
Assumably, you're supposed to correct the things that they found problems with, right? So you really only need to address those specific areas.
Yeah, these 3 areas.
Right. So there weren't that many. You've talked about a number of them already. You've talked to Buddy about the sand, and that's the best value resolution would be dealing with that if they're accepting it, if they're willing to accept it. And we talked in the audit meeting about the lawyer situation, and I think we decided at that point that right now we didn't want to change lawyers, so we weren't going to try and do that.
Well, we have a year contract.
Right, so we don't have to do that for now anyways.
Well, we're bound legally.
Right.
So that's something that would be done for
Right. But I think
anything would not take effect until January 1st of 18.
Right, and I think even that actually, if there was something that listed best value as being more important than lowest price, I mean, maybe they don't have the flexibility in their program, in their government department, or in their minds even to allow that thought to come to fruition, but it certainly would be worth trying to get them to understand.
Well, having had some experience with a big nonprofit that deals with federal and state grants, that best value is important, because if you can justify why you're going with a higher cost, there's there's rationale there that supports it. They usually go along with it, unless it's ridiculous.
That's what best value is.
Yes, I know, but it
about,
doesn't
right?
just extend to sand, it can extend anything.
Yes.
My understanding of the report was not that it was a problem that we did it, but that it wasn't documented
Right.
clearly enough in the minutes. And I do remember having conversations with Buddy about sand and why he opts to do that. We've had those conversations in board meetings before, but minutes could go on forever if they were to be completely about every single little bit of information.
Is that what they're looking for, to have documentation in the minutes for this kind of
That's what the
things?
report said, that it
Well,
just
that's
couldn't
how
find
they.
documentation.
That's how they tell.
Well, I know they read all the minutes,
Yeah.
because he was very impressed. They're all on the website, and I didn't have any problem getting them.
It sounds like maybe, Alice, maybe we should make a point to make it clear to you when we make a financial decision like that, to have it clearly stated in the
You have sort
minutes.
of a pro forma way of putting
What's
it
gonna
in
be
the
in there,
minutes.
yeah, and maybe even a special thing that says financial decision or something like that, that would let them come back and say, okay, I see it here, and do that. So, that would make sense.
I also think we should look at this best value resolution.
Definitely, yeah.
Yeah, that would be part of the process.
And that's, we're going to research a best value process, and we'll be considering that
Sounds great.
by September 30th or something
Right.
like that.
That sounds good.
Now, Buddy's, the lowest prices, or I mean, Guy's the lowest price as well as the best value, isn't he?
Yes, but there's, my knowledge of the lawyer fees in Ithaca, or even that I would get it by the next day, wasn't good enough. I'll get you a list by tomorrow. Oh, no. That wasn't good enough.
Was that offered? A list of all the legal fees in Ithaca?
Well, what do they want?
I could get it by tomorrow morning, or 6, I could get by tomorrow at 2 o'clock.
That'd be great. I mean, or
The
by the
auditor
next
didn't
meeting.
care.
Oh,
What do they
well,
want?
I don't know what the issue
Oh,
is.
it's
then.
too late.
They have their job probably has a very limited scope, and that's what their job is, and that's what they do.
Well, for corrective action, what do they want? I mean, if you just got another couple of bids from other attorneys, and then that would satisfy them, wouldn't it?
Or best value, I think. I haven't looked into the best value, I don't know.
I think the best value is important to have.
But
Yeah, if
I
we can
believe-
develop that policy and have it approved or understood by them at least.
And again, it might just be a matter of documenting why. I mean, if we have an attorney that we feel knows our particular issues and, you know, we have reasoning why, we can justify that's the attorney that we're gonna use and we can document it and they can see that, then perhaps that's enough.
And the price is competitive,
Right.
so it really shouldn't be an issue.
But the price has to be competitive with apples and apples, not apples and oranges.
Right.
Because there are different forms of counting out there and so on.
Okay, so I have 90 days. I'll run this by you before I put it in the mail. But the clock is ticking, actually. Forget which day it was released. Our lawyer says municipal law does not require bidding for this service.
And if they're working for a financial arm of the government, they may not be aware of that, human.
Okay, so that pretty well. Any other things that you should think we should address in the response or the corrective action plan on the audit? I'll work on that. And now a list of items needed to vote on the wind energy permit. Now, I kind of do think I gave all of you a copy of some stuff about this. This is stuff that the board has been privy to over the last 2 years.
This closed session information, this was the one in response to the list of items that were deficient?
No, I asked Frank Pavia and Guy Crow to meet with the board I'm pretty sure November. I don't know that this.
It has
Oh, it
October.
says October. Time flies when you're having fun. regarding how we should proceed with the wind energy permitting versus building permitting. And so this was a closed session, and these are the minutes, or this is the lawyer's rendition of it.
So this was provided to us by the attorney,
Yes.
this list.
Yes. Yes. And after that, I did this 3-column thing. And it's by far from complete. It's by far from complete. And I've never gone back and added to it. And I'm not saying this is where we should start tonight, but it was handy to give you.
So can we have a discussion, so we're all on the same page about what exactly this kind of letter that we're wanting to put together or list is to achieve? What our goal is?
That sounds good.
Don't everybody talk at once.
I have a question. Again, I'm sorry I was late. I see that Marguerite Wells spoke. Do you have, can you tell me what she said from the minutes? And what's, was it?
A little bit of it. She's interested in moving the process along. The plans were completed and presented at the February meeting, and she appreciates working with the town board. It was basically more, but that's how much I wrote.
Have we received payment that was requested by January 31st?
No, not unless you
I-
receive something else.
I would like to point out that there's $2,542 more worth of vouchers added today to that.
From tonight's meeting,
Right.
that were approved, yes. And also, I did not provide another copy, but you were all provided with a copy of the November 23rd letter
Yep.
that I sent on behalf of the board on what we wanted. Now, okay. So the question here is, what's our goal?
Get the plans approved? That'd be one, wouldn't it?
My understanding from the meeting that we had when Guy was here was that we were going to develop a letter with a time limit with the bare minimum of what we were willing to accept before we even begin review of their application. That was my understanding of that.
That's what we talked about last week. And at the end of that time limit, if we don't have the information, that the permit application would be called null and void, and they would have to reapply.
Well, I don't think that's exactly how it goes. I think you have to put each plan to a vote.
Well, what Mr. Crowe said last week was that he would consider that idea, and that what we needed to do was to get him a list of the issues that we thought were significant, and that he would look at those, and then give us legal advice on how we should proceed from there. Whether we should write that letter giving them a time limit with an end on it and say if we don't have the information we need at that end time, then we will call the permit or the application done. He was wanting to consider that because we asked him to. He just said that the list was what he needed in order to do that, and we said we would get him that list. He said he couldn't be here this week, and we said we would work on making the list for him. I think we could do that as a group. We could do it separately, or we could do it with him here at the next meeting when he comes to the next meeting. I think we can just decide what we'd prefer to do on that. We do have a letter already in place, November 23rd, asking for things which haven't been provided yet to the town. And that's, the letter went out November 23rd. I think it was the October meeting actually that we talked about that, and I think someone was here from Black Oak in that October meeting in which we asked for those things. So it's been quite a few months since we asked for those items from them, and that there's been no formal response from them on those items.
Well, yes, there has.
No, there hasn't.
Yes, there has.
Well, where is it? I don't have a piece of paper showing it.
Well, they've sent revised plans. So I haven't seen
No,
a
on
letter
the
from them.
plans, but the specific items that we asked for
Well, you
that aren't
said,
plans.
you said nothing's been provided. There is quite a few of this list that's been provided.
Yeah, we actually already had those plans at that point. Even back in October and November, we had the plan. And in effect, Marguerite's letter says very clear that you already have these plans. So
Okay,
what I'm
so
saying
we
is
do
that
agree with that.
is that the things that we asked to be provided that weren't provided at that point are still not provided, still haven't been provided to us.
So
This
you would
is-
use those as a starting list.
Well, it's December, January, February. It's been almost 3 months since this letter went out, and we still don't have a response. We don't even have a response saying we're going to do this. We have nothing at all that says they're going to do it or not going to do it. It's been 3 months. And the idea was, if it's been 3 months already and they don't seem to have any interest at all in replying to us, then we should give them another 3 months, and if they haven't replied in 3 months and given us what we need, then we will cancel their application and invite them to apply again when some future time.
The couple of these here that seem to be the things that keep us in our circle of dilemma here are the letters from the property owners that are going to give permission that the project can even go forward. And those 2 points were basically verbally just dismissed at the beginning of the last meeting last week by
Well,
Marguerite.
they were dismissed in privilege of the floor.
Right.
It wasn't even a formal
Right.
submittal, it was just privilege of the
Sorry, I
floor.
missed that meeting.
So, as far as I'm concerned, we should go about making the list and get them to our lawyer and have him go about starting the process of developing a letter or whatever is needed legally to inform Black Oak that unless they can provide the things we need, we plan on canceling their application.
And the things that you're referring to specifically, I can think of two, which is the location of the turbine on Donnie Gunning's land and whether or not Isaac will allow a substation to be built on leased land. Those are the main two.
Whether the
or is there-
substation can be where it's shown on the EIS, on the environmental impact.
Well, those are two things, but there's also, particularly in this information from the attorney, there are several things that have not specifically been addressed either.
And in the letter, Ann also said that there may be other issues as well, and I think there
Right,
may be
right.
other issues as well.
And I'd also like it to be clear, if this letter is done, that this is, the deadline will be the deadline, and whatever is in at that point will be what we will review. And if it's incomplete, it's incomplete. And that's not, the town has done its due diligence for over a lot of time
waited. The law has been there for a long time, and the need to comply with it has been there since the law has been in place. So it's, you know, it's not a surprise that these things are needed. But I also, the letter also needs to be clear that submitting those things by that deadline does not guarantee approval either. I mean, that's the beginning
It's
of
just a
our
starting
review
process, yeah, yeah.
So there's also some discrepancy about the actual distance to the nearest property line from the,
There is a discrepancy there.
how do we resolve that?
Well, first of all, we asked for some information from Black Oak to address it. And I would think that they would need to address that, first of all. And
And
say,
you don't think what they submitted is adequate? With the survey
They did submit a survey. They
by
didn't
the
address-
leading person.
They didn't address the question.
They provided a survey.
They provided
didn't-
a survey, and in the privilege of the floor information, we were told that perhaps the distance isn't far enough for the existing turbine that's on the environmental impact statement, so we may have to change to another turbine in order to get the distance correct. It was basically,
And-
what we were told was that, well, here's the information, and it probably won't work. We probably can't do what we said we're gonna do with this information that we gave you on this survey. So therefore, we will have to change the tower that's going to be on this particular piece of land in order to have it be acceptable to our wind law. Well, that's not necessarily something you can just do, just say, oh, well, by the way, we want to change this one to something else. So that has to be approved by the board. That has to go through a process. We don't have to make them go through a supplemental EIS for it if we decide that it's not valid enough that we need it. But it has to be addressed, and it has to be shown to the town board that that's what's happening. It's not gonna work to just have somebody get up and stand in front of the board and say, oh, we're gonna do this, so it's no problem. That's not addressing the issue.
Marguerite?
To clarify, the documents in the survey I provided do show that the turbine that is permitted, the 17100, does indeed comply to the setback distance of the town law. And the other thing I said was that when we provide site plan and construction drawings, which are to be provided as per the town's letter before any wind energy permit would be issued, that those site plans would show specifically, graphically, how we are meeting all setback rules. And I'm not saying I'm changing turbine models. I said I would show how we will comply. The town's law says that the turbine has to be a given number of feet from a property line, and we will show that the turbine that we're putting meets that distance. I'm not asking you to reopen seeker. I'm not asking you to change turbine models.
Can you elaborate on how you would show that you can do that?
Sure, because we will tell you what turbine we're using and how tall it is, and thus how far it has to be from the property line. And we will show you exactly where it will be and how it meets that distance.
Well, what you're saying
I
is
don't
that,
understand why that's,
what you're saying is that the information that's in the environmental impact statement in relation to that turbine is correct.
yes.
Okay. So then it's up to us as a town to decide if we think it's correct. So we'll have to look into it. If we have information otherwise from other people that questions the correctness of it, we'll have to look into it and see if that information is valid.
That's right. But until I show you site plans with measurements and everything like that, I don't see how you can make an opinion about
Well,
whether or not you think
we
it's
can't make an
adequate.
opinion at all until the issue's been addressed, and you haven't addressed it yet.
And as I said, the site plans are being drawn up right now.
You
That's
haven't
something that's-
addressed the issue in the letter.
I don't understand.
The letter says, on behalf of the Enfield Town Board, I want to inform you of the remaining plans that the board is requesting to you prior to our consideration of this. One of the points underneath it says, a letter from Don Gunning regarding the precise siting of a turbine on his property. You haven't addressed that issue. You haven't addressed that to the board. You sent us a lot of information. You sent us a contract. You sent us a drawing, but you haven't addressed that issue that we said.
Well, with Marguerite's permission,
we can take care of that right here and now. Marguerite, do I have your permission
I don't know what I'm permitting you to do, Donnie, but you're a free man, you can say what you will.
to address that situation of my turbine? That's what it seems to be. Whether my
Go ahead,
turbine is moved or
speak.
not moved is what we're saying. So I had,
That's one way to solve the problem. There are many ways to solve the problem. But go ahead, Donnie.
so do I have your permission to address that?
Yeah, absolutely.
And how the board can get one too with your permission.
That seems like a fair letter, yes, sir.
Plus, we're gonna have to talk about the coordinates at some point too.
Okay.
Go ahead and read it.
Is this a letter from Don Gunning?
Yes.
This is
You want to note that in the minutes?
the heading is Donald and Karen Gunning, 68 Weatherby Road, Trumansburg, New York, November 9th, 2016. To the Town Board, Town of Enfield, 168 Enfield Main Road, Ithaca, New York. Dear Town Board members, we are writing to confirm for the town that our contract with Black Oak Wind Farm LLC provides that the turbine to be built on our property is required to be placed in an exact location and cannot be moved more than 2 meters in any one direction without our express consent. The coordinates of the location of the turbine are N877434.09, E796326.79. We have no intention of granting Black Oak Wind Farm LLC permission to move that turbine more than 2 meters in any direction, nor are we obligated under our contract to do so. Sincerely, Donald Gunning and Karen Gunning. So we could take this information and just double check those coordinates and make sure that the distance from the next property line, which I think is Rob Tesori, gives enough distance to be in keeping with the wind law. And I would think that that would be something that the board would want to do at this point, since there's a real concern about it and a conflict with between the wind farm and local residents.
Does this satisfy the demand in November 23rd, a letter from Don Gunning regarding the precise siting of a turbine on his property?
It doesn't satisfy
To you, it does not satisfy.
Black Oak Wind Farm's response to it, no. I mean, it's very helpful information, and it allows us to,
Right.
yes.
It
Read that.
satisfies that a letter has been received, but it doesn't answer the question if the turbine can go where it is. So we have the letter, and it can go in
Which
with
is-
the other documents
Which
for
is the 20,
review.
which is in keeping with the letter of the 23rd.
That's correct.
It's not, yes, let's go back to our best value and best price. It satisfies the wording that you put into this letter. It doesn't satisfy the intent of what we meant to get from asking them for the information that we asked for in this letter. The intent was to know for sure that the turbine that's going on his property can legally, within the confines of the Enfield Town Wind Law, go at the place that he's located, that it shows on his property.
And you don't think construction plans would show that?
I don't think construction plans are what we're up to right now. I think we need to make sure at this point that the things that are in the EIS are actually valid and will work. Because to me, I'm going back to the EIS. We were changed from the original EIS to a new EIS, a supplemental one. And then we were said, go back to the old one. At that point, Black Oak's own representatives told us a number of things about the possibility of whether we could do the things that were in that original EIS when they put in the supplemental EIS. Then when they went back to the original EIS, they didn't comment on the fact that there's a difference between what's going on, what they told us originally, which was that the substation cannot go on Rich Cheater's land, is why they did the supplemental, and then going back to it and saying, well, wait a minute, we need to know if it can go on Rich Cheater's land. We asked that question, we waited for months to get the answer to that question. We never got an answer to that question, and right now, we're still waiting for an answer to that question. To me, that question goes along with.
Mike,
Yes,
you're off on a tangent now.
and you asked for an explanation, I'm trying to give it to you. This, it's kind of detailed and it's kind of complicated, but that's what it is. It's detailed and it's complicated, and if we don't follow our own procedures and our own laws, then we're not doing our job.
But with regard to this list in this letter, requesting that we have a letter from Don Gunning expressly stating what his intentions to do or not to do are provided in this letter. So the letter is provided, but the letter needs to be used in a review to determine whether or not the turbine can actually go in the place that he states here.
That's what I'm saying.
So, right, so
Yeah.
the request for the letter, for that letter, is satisfied per this request, in my view.
Marguerite?
I agree with you, Beth, insofar as I don't know how I could ask a different letter to come from Donnie, because the answer of the question of where the turbine goes and whether or not it meets town law is not Donnie's to answer, per se. I think the question we asked Donnie, he has answered in this letter as clearly as he possibly could. So the rest of it, I think, is on us to show to the town in the construction drawings that, as I've said, are under, being drawn up right now, to show this is the turbine model, this is the distance, this is how it complies with town law. We have to lay that out very carefully, and both graphically in a map and verbally, to show the calculus of how we come to those calculations. But in terms of meeting the needs of this list of requirements, I couldn't agree more, Beth. I don't understand how Donnie could do any better. Thank you, Donnie.
Yeah, he's answered the question.
If you want to leave it at letters, that's fine. You're right, it does comply with this. We have to go from here, and if we were going to call this, there's two ways of doing business. One is confrontational, one is cooperative. At this point, I find that we don't seem to be able to do a cooperative process. To me, I would have wanted someone to come to me and say, here's a letter from Don Gunning, here's the turbine, here's the height of the turbine, that would give me all the issues. I was asking for this from Black Oak. I wasn't asking for Donnie Gunning to come over and give me this letter. I was asking for something from Black Oak.
Mike,
And
they're
this is-
here tonight.
They are.
I think that shows
The
some.
words don't matter though, Ann. They can say all the words they want to say.
You want a cooperative venture.
Yes.
That means talking,
That's
not
right.
accusing, talking and listening and listening.
Well,
So
having-
here you have some principles from the project. So this is an opportunity. Peter, I'll recognize you.
Thanks, Ann. It just seems sort of obvious to me, based on what's there, that there's no other solution to meeting the lease requirements, which we're bound to meet, except to put a smaller turbine on the property. And the construction site plans will show that. And the seeker process already covers that, because the seeker process covers everything up to and below that level of impact. And a smaller wind turbine will have a smaller impact, so you won't need any adjustments to the EIS. The second question of Rich Teeter's property, the obvious solution there is what we've already mentioned before, which is that NYSEG accepts a lease according to the specifications of the agreement that we have with Rich Teeter. We are in negotiations with NYSEG on that, and we're very close to completion, and we'll be sharing that when the negotiation's completed. This is completely a distraction from what the real issues are that the town board should be grappling with, which are the plans that we've submitted and the revisions that we made in response to the feedback that we got from the engineering firm that town hired.
Thank you. We are supposed to be developing a timeline. That's what this board said we were gonna do tonight.
That's what I'm doing here.
Maybe they're hanging up over here.
Let's go.
I'm sorry, I have to go.
Virginia has caretaker responsibilities.
I'm sorry.
Thanks, Virginia.
My timeline is sit down with Guy Crow, give him a list of
Now you wanna
things-
sit down with Guy.
Say it again?
Now you wanna sit down with Guy Crow. I thought we were producing this tonight.
What made you think that? Is that on your agenda?
Yeah, yeah. This isn't what Guy Crow's doing, this is what we're doing.
No, it's not on your agenda. It's a list of items needed to vote on the wind energy permit. It has nothing to do with voting on the wind energy permit. It has to do with an entirely separate issue that we talked about at the last meeting. We're not ready to vote on the wind energy permit. We're far, far away from it. We're far, far away from it, Ann.
A list of items needed, a list of items needed.
Which is not what we talked about making at the last meeting. We talked
Now you
about a
won't
list
change
of
that.
items needed to provide to Guy Crow so that he could
Well,
write a
then
li-
let's
Wait a minute,
do
wait a minute.
that.
Are you gonna interrupt me every time I talk?
Yes, I am tonight.
Then I'm not gonna talk.
Yes, I am tonight. Then get the list of items that you want to talk to Guy Crow about, a list. So we're not talking about what you want from the wind farm, you want a list for Guy. So get the list out here. Because we want to be cooperative about this.
I
You got something for the list?
I do.
Good.
I am not comfortable just being told that NYSEG allows the substation to be on leased property. So we would need documentation from NYSEG that that is the case. Documentation from NYSEG.
On a
that
letterhead
states-
with a signature. Is that documentation?
Sure.
Okay, a letterhead with a signature of how high up? A person.
Would you be happy with just something written out by hand on line paper? I mean, this is the work of the board.
Yeah.
I mean, I've been
Yeah.
reminded of that.
Yeah.
So, being responsible and knowing what we're voting on and understanding it ourselves is the work of the board. So I'm not happy with just being told that something's okay by someone who has something to gain by it. I'd like to have documentation. I actually asked for that.
You don't need to waste your time on this. We will be getting you a letter from the chief legal counsel of Avant-Grid, New York, which is the corporation that oversees RG&E and NYSEG, stating exactly what you're looking for, okay?
Okay.
Where's Teeter's contract?
That is the other thing. The letter from Rich Teeter.
So this board continues to feel that that is,
Well, there are other issues
Necessary.
with regard to property that is owned by Rich Teeter. One of them is the right-of-way for the feeder lines that would run under his property. So, and my understanding is that that's not part of the leased land. And for the access road leading to the substation.
so you're wanting a letter from Rich Teeter.
No, I think the community needs to know that these things can go legally where Black Oak is proposing they're going to go. So it isn't just me that's wanting a letter, it's a municipality that is required to understand that the things that they're proposing can go where they are supposed, where they're, legally able to go.
There's also question about the size of the land that the substation needs to go on.
How big an acreage it needs?
Yeah. I mean, the documentation that I've read indicates that it's only about a acre. And my understanding is that it would require.
You have other information that leads you to believe.
It's a big project, and I'd like to know the size of that substation.
That'll all be in the drawings that we're drawing up.
Okay, good.
Will access roads be on the site?
Access roads, yes,
Yeah.
land control, parcel numbers, all of that is in those drawings. You can be assured that all facilities will be on land we have a legal right to be on. But that's the private business between the company and the landowner. I can't show you, it is not up to me to show you Rich Teeter's lease. The memo of lease is recorded at the county court of Westminster in 2009. I cannot produce to you the entire text of the lease.
You did Danny Gunning's, eh?
Johnny Gunnings was recorded in full because he didn't want to record amount, so we recorded the lease in full. That's public information.
Well, Rich can give you permission to give them the lease.
Beth, I have a question. Is this all stuff that you're gonna address to Black Oak? Because if you try to ask Rich for a letter, he's not gonna be able to give it to you.
Okay, so restate the things you want on the list for Guy.
All of them that we've just listed?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay. How about if I forward you my list that I've already typed up, and then you don't
Why
have
don't
to
you
write-
go in Alan's office and push the copy machine?
I've already done that. These that I've listed are just the obvious ones that I have primary concern with, but I imagine there are other board members that are.
Which permitting review? The wind energy permitting review?
The review process that we're gonna go through when we get all of the documents that we need.
Wind energy permit.
Okay?
So that's the permit review.
And
That
I
you're
note that
talking
these
about.
are the minimum items that I would be most concerned about to begin the review process for the permit. I'd also like to state that the town board members did not have an opportunity to come together and go through the plans that were provided, that were altered based on Labella's comments before
Right.
they made those changes. So
But say that again?
before comments from Labella were offered, and then they made changes and just last week provided us with the updated plans based on those comments.
Right.
But they made updates and sent us new plans without us as a group sitting down to go through our concerns about them and determining what things we might want to have them address before they would revise the plans. So,
So you want that on the next agenda?
I mean, I'd also like to ask that we not do regular town board meetings with Black Oak stuff in it, because I think it's important for us to do that work in their own meetings, so it's very clear how much time and energy is being used.
We already made a resolution to not talk about any of these issues until they're paid.
Mhm. But this was our list that we wanted to work on. So this is something that we wanted to do.
Yeah.
So. The application is also, when I've read it, the most most recently since I came back on the board. It's the same application, and even though resolutions have been passed for some of the information and accepting some of the information, it's very outdated. Almost all of the actual original application information with regard to details for who it's for and all of that are different. And the scoping projects that were suggested in it, all of the information in that application are, 12 years old now?
Say that again?
The scoping documents that they used to back up the value of this project are 12 or 13 years old. Actually, I wrote they were 13 years old.
I am gonna go talk to Guy this week and have him help me make a resolution to what we talked about for the last meeting, to get that in place.
And what's SPDES? Number 7.
That is the review that they are required. It is in the finding statement.
BD's permit for stormwater.
For stormwater, right.
Oh. That's not SWIP?
You prepare a SWIP, then they're applying for coverage under the general permit, right? Not the site-specific permit. So New York State has a general permit for construction activities that disturb more than 1 acre of land.
Right.
And you've got to address the impacts of sediment erosion control and stormwater management within this. That's what the SWIP does, stormwater pollution prevention plan.
I'm really
Well,
concerned, Dan, that you have no understanding of any of these issues after dealing with this for 10 years. You still don't understand the process.
You are out of
No,
order.
I'm not, Ann.
You
No, I'm
are
not.
out of order.
I'm not, Ann. I'm
Beth,
not out of order at all.
The
I think it's a
answer
real
to
problem
number
that you as the
7
supervisor
is in
of this
the
town
November
don't have any
23rd.
understanding of the issues that are happening here. You don't understand any of the information, any of these agencies that have been dealt with. You just haven't read any of the information that you have to read. You don't understand, and
totally
you're
out
really
of
ignorant
order
of the situation.
and
You are really
assaulting
ignorant of
and-
the situation, and you need to get up to speed if you're gonna be able to do a decent
And
job
you
on
are
this.
creating a really, really hostile environment.
I am
which
saying
is
what I
not-
feel, Ann. I'm saying exactly what I feel and what I
Well,
think.
you ought to take
And
a
that's
little
my
break
job.
and get your feelings
That's
under
my
control.
job as a town board member, Ann.
Not
That's
to
my
attack.
job.
It is not your attack, your right to attack.
It's my job to tell you what I think is happening in the town board meeting and how it can be better conducted. And you are not doing a good job on this.
Thank you.
You need to get up to
Duly
speed.
noted.
Thank you.
Be sure you put that in the minutes.
I wish you would, thank you.
Number 7 is addressed on November 23rd. At the bottom of the page, in addition, there will need to be approval from the Department of Environmental Conservation on the SPDES permit.
Yep.
So
And-
this demand isn't enough for you. You want to
Well,
double it.
was there a date when these things were supposed to be provided?
Well,
In this
about the
letter?
time you think DEC is gonna go by our date. You call the boys right up.
That's part of what we need to do, Ann. That's part of our job.
Oh, to get on DEC.
It's our job to do a thorough evaluation of this project.
Well, show me where I have any authority over DEC's processes.
So much of this list is still valuable that's in this letter. But this letter seems to be open-ended.
Well, I don't deny that.
So what were we hoping it would achieve?
Well, I'd have to go back and review the minutes to see why I was asked to do this way. Maybe you could pull up the minutes on the internet, have the answer tonight. I didn't bring November minutes with me, or October minutes with me.
I don't actually have a recollection in that meeting, I was here for that meeting, and I don't have a recollection that it was discussed, a time limit was discussed. But I'm confused as to why there wasn't a time limit given,
In this plan,
because it seems kind of pointless.
because we were trying to be helpful. We were trying to move the process along in a way that was considerate to everybody involved.
So this would have been November's meeting, or I think this was
No, it
October's
was,
meeting?
it was October's meeting.
Yeah.
I had a question for you, Mike. It looks like probably going to be a smaller turbine on Donnie Gunning's land. Is that?
To me, there was very conflicting information between the two representatives of the wind farm tonight as to what they're gonna do there, and that's why it needs to be in writing, so we know what they're doing.
On number 4, Beth, do you have knowledge of the definitive within the terms of the studies?
Well, let me find the, this list that was provided, that my understanding was, as I sat here in these meetings, was that there was a list of deficiencies that were provided by the community, a checklist, and that.
Provided by?
The community, a checklist, and that the board was going to ask both attorneys about these things and how they would move forward, and if all of these things were relevant. This was the document. So
You want to flip that so that this side can see? Flip that up. And your understanding from being an attendee at the meeting, that the board wanted this checklist presented to both lawyers?
in the discussion before the meeting, before the closed session. My recollection of the discussion amongst the board was that they had received this checklist and that you guys were gonna ask how you were gonna proceed with the attorneys, and that this was a good guide because it was a clear list of things that people seemed to think were deficient. So, there are some things on here that have been, and while plans have been offered, and I will not dispute that based on this list of things that were requested, things have been provided, but those aren't necessarily, just because they're submitted doesn't mean they're approved. So, and it also doesn't mean that their language matches the language, the mitigation language that is in the finding statement as I've compared them. So.
Well, the community dispute resolution plan has
has
3
been
different
rescinded,
versions in the
right.
last few months. all
And
from
the other
Blackwell.
thing is that, so the letter that we were thinking of devising was to give a deadline. So at that point,
that's when we would begin serious review of the things that they provide.
Right.
So if the minimal of things that we tell them we need to have cannot be provided by that date, then that was when the discussion was. If we can't even get these things that we feel are keeping us from moving forward, then you need to go back and regroup and figure your business out and come back when you're properly prepared.
Right.
Marguerite?
Just one additional observation. As I had understood it, yes, that larger list, Beth, was presented to the town board, and Black Oak's request to the town board was that we get a definitive list from the town's attorneys on exactly what the town law required that we provide.
Yep.
Because any number of things might be asked of us, but we wanted to understand what is actually required. So, as we had understood it, Frank Pavia had then provided that list, or maybe it was Frank and Guy, provided that list to the town board, which then turned into that November letter that Ann sent us, that we've been doing our best to perform on and provide all the ingredients we've been asked for as soon as we can, on the understanding that it would take some time. You know, those plans, we incorporated Labella's comments, but we understand that we have not incorporated anybody else's comments, and there's not been any discussion at the town board, to my knowledge, about them. And they don't seem like the kind of thing that can be decided in a meeting. There seems like a lot of backing and forthing, and to my knowledge, there was also not any review by Labella of the community outreach and response plan, or whatever you want to call that, the community plan. And that seems to me the thing that probably requires the most discussion, and maybe doesn't really require that much Labella input. That seems like the community's thing, like what the town board should be discussing, and it would take quite some time to really put polish on, and still has never been taken up, to my knowledge. And so, before we get to a point at which we suddenly say, well, gosh, we really are tired of working on this wind farm, let's get on to other business, which I completely respect and agree with that opinion. It seems like before I hand you a Speedies, because the last thing, aside from a letter from NICEAG, the last thing to my knowledge on the list of items you require is the stormwater SWIP and Speedies permit, and that is something that DEC has to review. And once I hand that to you, then all of a sudden you have everything you want. And is that the point at which you're going to suddenly start discussing all of these plans, or should you have maybe done some of the discussing and work on the plans beforehand, so that by the time the SWIP and the Speedies land in your lap, you then have everything worked on?
Well, I would say that I might be willing to go through the plans again, which I've already read and commented and compared with the finding statements, mitigation plans. As soon as Black Oak makes their account flush, then I would be interested in putting more work
We are
into
happy to
it.
pay it back. There were some serious discrepancies in the receipts that I asked Alice to get me, and then get me more, because it appeared to be overdrawn and I did not see that. I've only just been able to sort of make the numbers line up such that I understand what we owe and why. So yes, Black Oak will get the town paid back. We've been paying our escrow account for 6 years now, so you can be assured we will pay you back. But it's not been clear from the record keeping what we owed or how the town managed to spend $23,000 in 2 months' time. So that is why we have been doing our diligence to make sure that we're being properly billed.
Okay, I would just like to state for the record that the town doesn't spend this money, that the town wouldn't have to spend this money if this project wasn't in our laps. So that's really a comment that really should not be made. The board resolution, in this letter, there's a reminder that the board resolution also stated that there may be other documents required as are deemed necessary. So we can keep that in mind.
Yes.
So, as far as making this list fully this evening, this letter that's from the attorneys that we received this evening, this is the first time I've been privy to what the attorneys said in the closed session. So my concern has always been what part of these community concerns were actually concerns that the attorneys deemed were the most critical. And this is the first time that I've seen that. So
I don't feel comfortable saying that we've compiled this list completely this evening if I haven't had an opportunity to see this and read it through and appropriately understand what they've determined.
Mhm.
If that's-
Perfectly
that's okay.
understandable.
The other thing that I'm really concerned with is Marguerite keeps bringing up construction plans, but it's very important to me that we see a detailed description and drawings of exactly how they intend to build this now, once or if it's permitted, if they were granted the permit. So because things have changed so much, it has created so much confusion that it would be great if we could, before that period of time
Yes,
comes.
absolutely, totally agree. And to clarify, perhaps some of the confusion about what Peter said, I don't think he meant to imply that we would be building some completely different turbine than what has been reviewed. The smaller turbine he was making reference to would be the 17100, which was already reviewed and approved under secret. There would not be a different turbine model, smaller again.
It's not the one on your current application.
Well, it doesn't quite work like that, in that the 17100 was approved, and then the 2.3107 was also approved.
No, it was changed to that number. It wasn't also approved, it was changed from one to the other.
You think there wasn't a board acceptance of that?
I don't think we left it open-ended that you could do either one. I think we changed it from one to the other. That's what I remember you asking for.
Why would a reasonable person not entertain going backwards?
None of us here are attorneys on this point. Jude, with you being the exception and you're not an attorney on this subject, let's not opine on this without legal opinion here.
But that's the point, is to get guys' legal opinion on something.
I understand, we can ask Mike, but he's not here, so I don't think either Mike or I are equipped to argue about the point about
Well,
whether or
that's-
not it's this turbine or that one or can't.
That's exactly what I'm saying.
That's fine. Go ask Guy, that's not a problem.
What I asked was to ask you to show me that this was okay.
And we will in the drawings, as I said, but I was trying to clear up the discussion I heard in the group, which was, are we gonna use yet another kind of turbine that's smaller in reference to what Peter said? Peter and I did not say different things. It just appeared to cause confusion because we stated them differently.
Well, I'm sorry, I misheard you then. But I would need a piece of paper that says we are changing from one turbine to the other on this piece of property. And then I would want to get a legal understanding of whether that's okay to do without a board approval to do that. Whether or not I agree or disagree with this project going forward, I really feel it important to protect the town, that we do things legally and correctly. I know you've talked about the fact that there may be lawsuits, and I think all of us are aware that there may be lawsuits when this is over. If we don't cross our Ts and dot our Is, we're liable to lawsuits from either side, and I think it's really important for us to take care of that.
Agreed?
Well, I would certainly like to add that I would really highly recommend that all board members certainly read the lawyer's opinions quite carefully before voting.
Well, I think that we are reading everything very carefully. So I don't feel that we are deficient in that at all.
Okay.
So if there's something that's given to me, you can be assured that I'm going to read it very carefully. So how will we move forward?
What is your intention this week?
I had planned on going to talk to Guy individually to ask him how to proceed with the resolution, because it seems to be complicated to try and get there in a meeting with all the people and get the information. That way I can write up a resolution about it, or we can write up a resolution, or we can figure out whether a resolution can be written, and we can bring it to the next board meeting. Hopefully Guy will be there, and then we can deal with it as a legal matter.
What is your goal? What is the resolution you're looking for?
My goal is to tell Black Oak that we need to have them bring the things that need to be current with the board, and to give them a time ending date to do that.
I just wanted to mention that I took a residential property value guarantee agreement from the town of Hammond.
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah.
Made a bunch of changes to it, and changed some numbers and deleted some things, and that, getting a little ahead of ourselves, but that's something I would like to see part of the dispute resolution plan.
Well, at the point that the board feels it's appropriate to discuss one of these plans,
Yeah, I
I'll
just
make
wanted to-
sure that they have a second copy of that.
I really appreciate that.
Yeah, I just wanted to let them know where it came from, in case they didn't know.
I
It's
wrote
not
your-
Caitlin, it's Hammond.
I wrote your name and the date at the top, so I would know for sure.
It's not Caitlin, it's Hammond. Okay, is there any other discussion on the last agenda item, list of items needed to vote on the wind energy permit?
I would like to know, instead of just hearing it or being told, the letter stated, I think, that it was supposed to be by January 31st, that the account was brought up to date.
The demand.
Yes. And
Yes, that's,
so,
that's not on the agenda, but I'll,
well, you asked for
add
any
it.
other concerns about that, so.
Will Guy be at?
Well, that's a different letter. I'll entertain it. Oh, yes, that's the first thing. You do want Guy at the next meeting?
It's a regular town board meeting?
Town board meeting.
Yes.
All right.
Yeah, I was looking
will.
at this list, number 5.
Now,
hey,
wait, then she's next. Letter dated January 6, 2017. Consider this this is the last paragraph. Consider this a formal demand to comply with the developer's agreement referenced above. If it's not brought into compliance by January 31st, 2017, I believe the town board will consult our attorney to bring further action. Now, is that what you want to discuss now?
That's what I'm referring to. Well,
That's what you're referring to?
Yes.
Okay, so I've read it. Do you want to discuss it more?
I'd just like to know from Marguerite when that's gonna be done, because she mentioned that they are very willing to pay their bills. So,
You got a comment on that, Marguerite?
I can't give you a date, but as soon as I can. But as I said, there was some serious billing discrepancies again, so I had to sort that out before I'm willing to pay large bills.
Oh, interesting.
There was supposed to be a $15,000 escrow in place as well.
Cushion
That's part of what
is
I
a
was
word.
saying myself, and what we have kept with the town for 5 years.
Right. Okay, Henry.
Well, Beth's letter here, as far as bringing that current, she also wrote plus foil fees. And I want to discuss that with Guy at the next meeting.
I think it would be good to do, yeah.
Fine.
We also had a request from one of the town members that Labella's comments for those plans be put on the website as well, since they're public knowledge. Seems like if we want to save money on FOIL requests, that if we put them on the website, it would save us money. And it also will be complying with state law.
You want to make a motion?
I don't think it needs a motion. I think it just, it's in compliance with state law to put them on the website. We should be complying with the state law.
Nobody wants a motion, okay?
I'll put forward a motion that we put Labella's comments with regard to the plans that were forwarded by Black Oak on the website. For
Second.
transparency.
Call the vote.
Councilperson Carpenter?
Aye.
Councilperson Handstein?
Aye.
Councilperson McGee?
Aye.
Supervisor Ryder?
Aye.
Will you forward those to Sue or I to put on the website?
I will. Okay, so you're gonna discuss FOIL with Guy one more time, okay? So you put that on your list.
If we individually can make sure that we have questions, specific questions for Guy when he comes, that would be great. I think.
He would like them before,
Yeah.
to be more prepared. Sure. Any announcements? Blood drive March. We're just getting it out early. Any other announcements? Yeah, Martha, you wanna say the date of the Energy Navigator training?
It has not been established.
Oh, it's just, is it one evening or more than one evening?
It's 10 evenings.
10 evenings,
10
starting
evenings.
on Thursday evening sometime in March.
Correct.
Okay. If you're interested, give Martha your name so that she can get you in the fold. Other announcements?
I think it's, where did you say? So this, I'm just reading off the paper from Martha, it says the 10-session Energy Navigator training will be held on Tuesdays, 9 to 11 a.m. beginning April 19th, 2016. So maybe this is not the up-to-date
Maybe not.
Perhaps not.
information sheet.
Maybe not.
Sorry.
Any other announcements? I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Thank you.
Well, are we gonna have privilege or no?
No, it's a special meeting. There's no privilege. Second privilege at special meetings. Organizational resolutions.